Welcome to this Times Techies webinar. I am Sujit John and I have with me my colleague Akhil George. The two of us will moderate this discussion that we are having in partnership with Cybage software. Today we're going to discuss the role of AI, data and cloud in shaping tomorrow's workforce. We're going to discuss how to future-proof talent. Technology, as we all know, has been dramatically transforming the way we live and work. AI has been the big disruptor in recent times. And you can't have AI without data and cloud. Frequently, concerns are raised about AI taking away a lot of jobs. So we will today look at where AI stands today and what the future will hold. We will look at the importance of data and cloud in this revolution and the impact of all of this on the workforce, how companies can provide the right launchpad for a new generation of future-ready talent. To discuss this, we have with us three seasoned professionals. We have with us Aneesh Nathani. Aneesh currently leads the AI business unit at Cybage Software. The unit empowers enterprises and ISVs to harness the power potential of generative AI, whether for enhancing SaaS product features, streamlining internal applications, or launching innovative new products and services. Previously, Aneesh was part of the software strategy division at EY Parthenon, assisting private equity firms in evaluating software companies. Outside of work, Aneesh enjoys time with his dogs, hiking, diving, and running. Welcome, Aneesh.
Great to be here, Sujit. Thanks for having me.
We also have Bikramjit Debnath. Bikram is country head for Azure business at Microsoft India. In that role, he oversees the P&L, strategy, marketing, operations, product, and market share of a unicorn-scale cloud business. He's been with Microsoft for 9 years now, before which he was with the CK Birla Group, including at Birlasoft and with Cognizant. Bikram today mentors and partners with startups, accelerators, and VC firms to promote innovation and growth in the Indian tech ecosystem. He has received special recognition from the President of India for playing a key role on behalf of Microsoft in developing Swayam, the pan-India massive open online course. Welcome, Bikram.
Thank you so much, Akhil and Sujit.
And we also have Raunaq Lalwani. Raunaq is Vice President of Software and High-Tech Pre-Sales at Cybage Software. He has been with Cybage for nearly 16 years now, starting as a software engineer and then taking on a variety of roles. His focus is on bridging the gap between technology and business to deliver strategic solutions that drive growth and efficiency. Outside of work, he enjoys spending time with his family and exploring nature on his motorcycle. He's also a coffee enthusiast, always eager to try local blends and brew his own too. Welcome, Raunaq.
Thank you, Akhil. Thanks, Sujit. Great to be here.
So those who are viewing this can send in questions through the Facebook comment box. Sujit and I will put them to Bikramjit, Aneesh, and Raunaq. So why don't we jump in? Aneesh, the first question is to you. What has the rapid evolution of AI in the past few years meant for tech talent?
Yeah, thanks, Akhil. So I think tech talent is used to changing, right? So if you look at an engineer who joined the workforce in the early 2000s and the journey they've been through, even before AI, right? So things like moving towards a microservices-based architecture pattern, being more cloud native with moving from on-prem systems, creating more REST API-driven architecture, the big CI/CD revolution, and being more agile in delivery. So I think change is nothing new to a lot of people probably on the webinar as well and outside. And AI definitely feels at the next frontier in terms of what it means for tech talent as well as talent more broadly. I think the most immediate impact is that the expectations for especially certain types of work that we do and certain tasks have increased. There is an expectation to be slightly more efficient and better at certain types of tasks in our job, right? And it's important to recognize what those look like and how we can actually get there. So it's a very role-specific evolution, right? So the way a product manager looks at it versus the way a developer versus the way an architect and a UX analyst look at it. You have to really look at the intersection between AI and your particular job function. And we'll go into, how the tooling landscape looks there and how you can upskill yourselves to be more competitive in the workforce. I think a great start that has really helped us, and we've tried to, be evangelists of it at Cybage, is that, start with in a non-work context, right? So as individual people in our day-to-day lives, I have been harnessing the power of, right from, let's say, a ChatGPT to a Claude to a Bing Copilot to, for recommendations, right? Like for recommendations for the hiking that I attempt to do, or for the diving spots that I want to go to, or itinerary planning for vacations. Or for data cleaning, right? If I'm sitting on some messy data and I quickly want to restructure and transform it, or for it's really changed the way browsing works, right? How many people are still doing browsing in the traditionally that they were doing it? So the main piece of advice that we always give to tech talent is that before you look into your role in the team and the enterprise, are you getting the most value out of it in your day-to-day life? And once you are able to gain that intuition, you'll be able to know when it makes sense to go to an LLM, for example, in your day to day, both work and outside work. And once you get that intuition and it happens to you natively, you'll be much better placed to bring those learnings into your job function to generate code more effectively, to generate screens more effectively, to flesh out requirements more effectively if you're a PM. So I think usually that's kind of the approach that we recommend, and that definitely has been the change in terms of expecting tech talent to upskill and spend time on more challenging and intellectually demanding work. So it's definitely been interesting to see that trend in Cybage as well, and as an org focusing on training. So we recently had a yearly tectonic session where it was thousands of folks gathered around to brainstorm ideas, understand the key concepts, and go back with how it applies to them. So you need both the mass org-wide trainings as well as the persona and role-specific trainings that we'll definitely go into, I think, in some future questions as well. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
How long does it take your employees to become kind of intuitively use some of these tools?
So yeah, I think Sujit, it depends, and feel free to hop in the rest of the folks. It depends also on the function, right? So as a developer, I think you end up pretty quickly getting familiar and comfortable with code gen tooling because developers have been used to going to a Stack Overflow or a browser for code suggestions, right? So it changes the modality of it, but the process feels intuitive fairly quickly. Where it requires more, training is to know. It's also to know when not to use it, right? What type of outputs or recommendations should you be double checking and verifying if you're using it for code gen. You can't use code just as an excuse not to have a conceptual understanding of what code you're writing. Because we've seen that, in greenfield projects, you'll get a lot of benefit from Copilot, which is an extremely powerful tool. But, maybe in debugging, if you haven't understood the code and the functionality of your platform, you'll face struggles. So I think, so for some personas like CodeGen, it is the training is shorter term and people get the hang of it quite quickly. Even for something like content writing and creative purposes, it comes quite naturally to people. But for some other roles where it's not immediately obvious, that's when it might require, let's say a management or a reporting type of use case, or people who aren't operational day to day, but more wanted to use it for conceptualizing and whiteboarding ideas. That might take some time because you might be expecting too much with a 3-word prompt, right? So you have to really engage with a long form conversation to get the best out of it. So that requires more training and time.
And Aneesh, here I can come in, especially from the experience of driving the GitHub Copilot adoption in the country. It's our product. When we brought it in, it was absolutely new category in the market. Because of generative AI, software development job was the first job that got significantly and positively disrupted because of the product. And I ended up speaking to tens of thousands of developers. So one of the pattern that we have seen, it was very intuitive, like Aneesh said. The developers picked it up very, very quickly. But we started seeing rise of interdisciplinary skills for developer, which they did not have to face before. For almost last 2 decades, just knowing few technicalities was sufficient for tech talents. As long as they knew how to do good Java programming or how to do good Python programming and a little bit of database was sufficient enough for them to have a very long, excellent work experience. But now AI came in and it could do those rudimentary grunt work very well. And hence now the developers had to work where they have to combine AI plus cloud, or domain knowledge plus cloud knowledge. Also have good understanding of cybersecurity. And what happened is we started seeing skill that not many developers was prioritizing before, which is the overall architecture knowledge, overall understanding the business process under which they are writing the code. And those skills started becoming very important and so that's how I think it is getting positively disrupted. We see skill shortage, not as much in using the tool, because using the tool is the easiest part. They struggle in using the tool because they are now lacking skill in the larger system knowledge, larger architectural knowledge, larger domain knowledge. So that is where we will need a lot of focus in skilling and upskilling, and which will make them rockstar developers again.
So you're actually moving away from being specialists to more generalists. And
specialization will still be needed because the developer would still need to know the Java code that the code generating tool gave him. It's a good Java code or not. Should it be modified? Should he go ahead and make some changes in it or not? So that level of specialization. But it is about now, it is more about AI first and more about an expert who doesn't have to do all the 100% manual work that AI can take care of. But now being in a driver's seat, which now requires much more broader knowledge, multidisciplinary knowledge to be successful rather than just one specialized knowledge.
Raunaq, let's get you into the chat. How is data and cloud technology enabling AI innovation? How can teams and departments and companies bring these ideas and use cases into action to become AI leaders in the organization?
Yeah. So before I jump into answering this, allow me to give you some context on where I'm coming from. So I'm speaking from the experience that we have gained at Cybage. Now, what does Cybage do? It will help you understand the journey that we have gone through in terms of cloud and the power of data that powers AI tools today. So the kind of services we do are more focused on product engineering and for tech companies. Now, these could be services in the form of greenfield cloud native development. They could involve modernizing experience using the power of data and AI, technology transformation, be it on-prem to cloud, cloud to cloud, monolith to microservices, and so on. The kind of companies that we work with are at the forefront of using cutting edge technology. So we ensure that we stay ahead of the curve on technology through research and capability building. Now, moreover, we have had the privilege of working on such projects with our clients where we can apply our knowledge and learn collectively on technologies like cloud, data, and AI, right? So what is fueling Gen AI or AI today is data. It's a no-brainer. It's called the new oil today, right? So it is the quality of data, the way it is structured, even the quantity to some extent, that in combination influences the quality of the output that you get from these AI models. Cloud obviously plays a role in making this technology more accessible to everybody. Now, it doesn't require you to be a data scientist or an ML engineer building your models from scratch or fine-tuning things, because now large language models are available as cloud native offerings, and the cloud service providers are providing you the options or the features to scale things quickly, to keep things secure and so on. So there's an impact. How did we go about adopting this is something that I would like to spend some time on, because considering the audience that are here, it would help us understand that what would be a good way to become an AI leader in the org as well, right? So the approach that we followed, like way back in early 2023, we recognized that the disruptive potential of Gen AI. Our approach was to be hands-on and top-down. So in two ways we were attacking this. Now, one was in terms of experimenting with the tools and tech required to build Gen AI solutions. And the other was how Gen AI can be used, more specifically GitHub Copilot-like tools, to streamline the development processes. So two angles: how to build Gen AI solutions and how to use Gen AI to build solutions. Now, on the Gen AI solutioning side, it started with us understanding what is possible with Gen AI. Now, basically, if I simplify it, right, it understands language and provides most relevant responses based on the data that the large language models are trained on. What I want it to give me, what if I want it to give me a more relevant response, relevant in terms of the knowledge that it has not been trained on? Should we retrain it? Should we fine tune it? Or can I augment it with data so that I can get that answer? That is the concept of retrieval augmented generation, right? So we understood these concepts. Then we started identifying use cases in our company and building a solution. Now, we sit on a large corpus of unstructured data. All companies do. In our case, this data could be HR policies, our capability decks, our proposals, case studies, and whatnot. So we picked up one category of data, unstructured data, which was our proposals, case studies, and capability presentations. Can we use that to improve our sales and marketing approach to better position ourselves? Or in general, become more aware about our capabilities was the problem that we identified. So it started with understanding the basic, seeing what data is available and how I can use that data to augment the power that these LLMs provide was our use case, right? We used Azure OpenAI here, and the solution that we built is called SmartPal, with a team of engineers, architects, DAs, and managers, researching and learning along the way. Now, in this journey, we became more familiar with the concepts like RAG, like advanced RAG also, agentic architecture, how to take things to production, which is very important. Again, cloud plays a very important role there. How to take care of security, rule-based access, how to make sure that whatever responses I'm getting, if they are not up to the mark, where are they breaking? Is it on the data quality side? Is it on the LLM side? All of that requires using different tools. So we use this as our training ground to become familiar and strong on Gen AI concepts in terms of how to build it. Then when we would talk to our clients, we would
demonstrate. This was called what? SmartPal, is it?
SmartPal, yes.
Okay.
So,
and that did what?
So SmartPal, I could go there and I will ask in natural language, hey, what kind of capabilities do I have in healthcare field, especially in terms of the clinical trials? So it will use the data, which is in the form of case studies and capability decks of Cybage that talk about our experience in clinical trials. And it will give me the information that I need, that I can use it in a conversation with a client or a prospect. Right? And we are now working on multiple such use cases. This was the starting point. So when I would talk to now this has also got the intelligence where I can ask a question which is more generic, for which it need not tap the Sybase knowledge base. So I can use it like ChatGPT also, for example. I can upload content which could be even in image format and things like that, and it will help me get insights from that as well. So it is an evolution in itself, that tool. But this tool we were using in our conversations with our clients in our early days. Not only that, Aneesh spoke about the idea of experimenting, finding use cases and things like that. So when we would speak to a prospect or a client, we would contextualize our talk and we would build a quick prototype to give a demo. And then it would make the conversation more meaningful, right? It's all about context and data that you are using in the end. So you would say, build a RAG-based prototype using the data that is relevant to that client or industry, right? So that made us that made our conversations very smooth. Now, since then, we have picked up a lot of engagements where we are building these kinds of solutions. Like there are some solutions where we are helping our clients manage support tickets better, using the data of support tickets, knowledge-based articles, and whatnot. We are integrating it with call center solutions also. So in that case, my data is actual voice calls that gets fed into the engine, which is Gen AI powered, and then finding an answer through a RAG-based solution, going back and responding again as a support agent through a call. Those kinds of solutions. Another interesting project we are doing is for a cybersecurity company where now data could be unstructured and structured. This use case which we are working on is allowing us to extract insights from structured data using natural language. So I'm making API calls, not just stopping there. I can use, again, natural language to take actions on that data. So with human in loop, of course, it has to be within the boundaries of what is right and secure, so that in the end, the human is making, the expert is making the final decision. That is where what Bikramjit said, you should have the knowledge of the subject. It is very, very important. You can't just blindly delegate what you are doing to a Gen AI powered agent. So this has helped us gain knowledge and understanding of the power of cloud data and the different tools that come in the ecosystem. And similarly, we are also using this to make the dev productivity better, right? So back in late 2022, seems like a long time ago now, our chief architect used GitHub Copilot to migrate one of our internal applications from F# to Rust. Okay, and we saw really good, promising results. We shared that knowledge. He shared that knowledge, and then our much larger architect group got access to GitHub Copilot, and they used that in different use cases. And we ran a survey, and we collected our learnings from there. Then we took it further. We did another experiment. Now, everybody talks about what is the productivity gain when we are using tools like these, right? So we ran an experiment within our company with two sizable teams working on the same backlog. One was given GitHub Copilot, one was not given that. And we measured things like productivity, throughput, pull requests, the code quality, bugs being logged, and things like that. And we measured that data, and we started using that in our conversations with our clients who were interested in using this technology to improve the efficiency of developers. So
how much higher was the productivity?
Sorry?
How much higher was the productivity with the tools?
So this was a greenfield engagement. And we saw that when developers are using GitHub Copilot for greenfield development, the average story points per hour were 26% greater than the other team that was not using it. So there was definitely an increase in efficiency. Even the pull request percentage was greater. So, but mind you, this is on a data set, right? It will vary from project to project. In a brownfield engagement, it could be different. But what we are seeing definitely gives us a lot of, it excites us, what we are seeing on the ground. So, so yeah, but yeah, this is, sorry, it's a long answer to someone whose idea is to become more familiar with the tech. And you have to start by using it, by understanding it, using it, finding the right use cases, build a prototype, show it to the stakeholders, get buy-in, and build iteratively. You know, this sounds like agile, right? And this is not new a concept. So this is what our experience has taught us so far. And I think it will only grow as time comes.
Oh, fascinating. So it has to be a top-down approach, and then you have to start with a use case where you experiment and learn and then extend it. Fascinating. Bikram, I know you spoke about on the software productivity side and all that, but generally speaking, what kind of impact will AI-driven automation and cloud computing have on the workforce? Will it, I mean, there are always these worries about job losses. Will it primarily create new opportunities, or is there a risk of significant job displacement?
Thank you, Sujit. It's a great question. And in fact, one of the top of mind question pretty much for all tech professionals today. So let me start by setting the context on productivity and why it is important. GDP per capita is a good proxy of economic productivity of human capital in any country. The World Bank report says that the worldwide average GDP per capita today is around $13,000. Some countries are above that, some countries are below that. Despite being the fifth largest economy, India's GDP per capita is only 25% of that global average. And if we have to grow our GDP per capita by 4x to match that global average, we need to improve productivity of our people. There is no other alternative. And using technology is the only way to do that. And India's digital revolution in the IT sector, in the startup sector, have already shown that how technology can boost productivity and can create new jobs. Because these are the two sectors which probably is driving the maximum tech population employment today. Now, let me share how I anticipate the AI-driven automation to play out. Microsoft's original vision when we started almost 50 years back was a computer on every desk, and we delivered on that. And we always had that dream that computers someday will learn to speak our language, it will see what we see, it will hear what we hear, it will make sense of the world like we do. It was a very difficult feat to achieve, but finally it's here. Computers today are getting multimodal UI, and you heard from Raunaq, and it has a reasoning engine that can simulate brain. But yet technology for its own sake counts for nothing. It's about how it changes lives, how it opens doors, how it expands minds and creativity. This is a new era of technology that just doesn't solve problem. It is there to support you, teach you, help you. And hence we have now taken up this ambition to put a co-pilot in every pocket. We're creating an AI companion for everyone that understands the context of your life while safeguarding your privacy and your security. It gives you access to a universe of knowledge, simplifying the overflow of the information that you have, offering support and encouragement when you want it, acting on your behalf when you give it the permission. Imagine a world where there is a co-pilot for developers. You just heard co-pilot for developers story because it was the first job that had that impact. But imagine a co-pilot for lawyers, doctors, teachers, bankers, even machine operators. For instance, Infosys has seen significant gain with GitHub Copilot, where almost 18,000 developers have been using it over the last 1 year. And in their annual analyst call, they called out AI has generated over 7 million lines of code for them. Similarly, Air India is using M365 Copilot to automate the routine task, allowing employees to focus on more strategic work. So AI Copilot like this, it will raise the bar of what good looks like for products and services that we deliver. But at the same time, it will also reduce the entry barrier for people to do it. AI will make it easier for people to do everything better, faster, and cheaper. So finally, we design AI to augment, not replace human capabilities. For example, from Microsoft, we are investing in certification and skilling program like Advantage India, which aims to skill 2 million people by 2025, helping workers to transition to new roles that leverage AI. We need this balanced approach because it will ensure that while some tasks are getting automated, the new opportunities for innovation and higher value work are also getting created, which is going to ultimately benefit the workforce and the economy, and which we need because we need to grow GDP per capita for us to increase as a to improve our economy.
So we'll explore that talent part a little more later. But Bikram, staying with you, I mean, I also want to ask you, since everybody is saying AI, of course, requires massive amounts of computing power and all of that. So you are in that area of Azure, cloud and all of that. How will the cloud landscape change with this increased demand because of AI? Is your business booming because of AI?
AI definitely, it has a positive impact on the business. But like you said, on the cloud, on the data center side, there's a huge shift happening. So let me share 3 trends that we see that's happening there. First, we will see infrastructure, massive infrastructure optimization in the DC for AI. I can give you our example. So at Microsoft, we're enhancing every layer of our cloud infrastructure to meet the AI demand, from data center silicon to the network. Our custom silicon, as well as accelerated hardware like NVIDIA, AMD, our own chips like Azure Maya, are ensuring that we are optimizing performance while controlling cost. It's an end-to-end approach. It allows us to scale AI workload in a way that we have never done before. The second thing we'll see, as we optimize the data centers, we will see even bigger supercomputers for AI. So over the past few years, we have significantly expanded our AI infrastructure. So last November, we launched one of the most powerful AI supercomputer for training the GPT model. Since then, we have scaled that infrastructure by 30 times. We're not only increasing our training capacity, but we're also scaling our inferencing capability. And because of these larger supercomputers that we are building, you can expect the AI models to get even smarter and even safer. They will become more useful. The jump in utility from one model to another, that's going to keep happening. The speed and cost really matters to us. They will keep improving as well. To give you an example, we launched GPT-4 around March 2023. In 12 months since then, in 1 year, the model performance improved by 6x and the cost reduced by 12x.
Because of?
Because of the better machines that we are building, bigger supercomputers we are building, which is building even more efficient AI model, which is not only better in performance, but cheaper in cost. And this trend will continue. The third thing we'll see is rapid progress in both the frontier model as well as small language model. We're not just focused on LLMs, which is the most talked about. We're leading right now in the small language model revolution. Our 5.3 family of SLM becoming increasingly capable. The smaller model, it is cheaper to do inferencing. It needs less compute to run the model. The small models are better to run on local devices, but usually you have to take a hit on the quality. But in some case, because the models are getting better, you may want to run a model where it is cheaper to run and the latency and the quality is acceptable for you. The very interesting thing that's happening over last year is the quality that you can get from the SLM is getting pretty high. Like today, one of the SLM model is almost at the equivalent level of GPT 3.5. With 5, you can now build apps that can span across your web, Android, iOS, Windows at the edge. They can take advantage of local hardware when available and fall back on the cloud when it is not. So we recently introduced new category of Copilot Plus PC. It's the fastest AI first PC ever built. These devices are designed to run AI model locally, and these will enable seamless AI experience both on your device as well as on the cloud. So we'll see a lot more AI capability at the edge using such SLMs over time.
I'll just add to Vikram's point actually on, as a consumer, right? Since Cybage, obviously a lot of our projects will be on Azure, utilizing cloud services and AI as well. So be it Azure OpenAI or other cloud provider frameworks. And even that has seen an evolution, right? Like you went from a world where people would just view it as deploying an application on an Azure VM versus now most of our Gen AI projects involve full utilization of cloud services, right? So be it a semantic kernel for developing AI applications, an Azure OpenAI for LLM model building, an evaluation and testing services that again is coming from cloud providers and smaller models like Phi, right? So you definitely take a hit on the quality like Bikramjit mentioned, but going to Raunaq's example of that cybersecurity example or other projects where it's not just one LLM call and response, you're chaining different calls together, you're creating agents that think with some complexity before giving a final response. You might use an SLM to optimize costs, right? To make some decisions in that larger chain before sending it to a GPT model, which is a lot more expensive for inferencing. So costs have definitely come down, which has made it a lot more production ready. And still, I think it's important, we focus a lot with our clients on how they are measuring ROI, right, for these use cases. So if I am taking the typical kind of maybe support example, I can measure it doing an analysis of types of ticket flows I get, doing that analysis, seeing how much time is possible to be saved. If I'm launching it as a feature, as an ISV, right, I can still do some analysis on willingness to pay for that add-on Gen AI feature, right? I can create a P&L for that generative AI feature that I am pushing out and do cost estimates that way. Use something like a provision throughput on cloud or certain offerings that allow you to plan costs more in advance. So definitely seen a lot of progression in terms of better improved inferences and then taking a fine-tuning it and using that to match the performance of a larger model, right? So as a developer org, those are the types of things you can do with a cloud platform like Azure to optimize your costs and be more production ready, which we are doing in many of our projects. So that's been an exciting journey for sure.
And whatever capabilities are there globally, Vikram, those are available even in the India Azure cloud and all that, is it?
Yeah, and the best part is putting capability in cloud is it's very accessible everywhere. But what we're also doing is all the capability, we're pushing it down to all the local cloud data centers that we have. So all our AI capability are available in India as well in the local India data centers.
Okay.
What skills will be most in demand as AI and cloud technologies continue to evolve? And how can young professionals prepare for this new era? Will domain knowledge trump over tech skills?
This is an interesting one. I mean, now, as these technologies are advancing, certain technical skills will evolve, but core skills like problem solving, thinking holistically, understanding the client's business and vision will become all the more critical. So while AI tools can automate routine tasks, like back to Bikramjit's answer, they cannot yet design or architect solutions, nor can they understand the broader purpose behind the project. Right? So this makes engineering fundamentals and the ability to think strategically essential in an AI-driven landscape. So when I say thinking strategically or holistically, it requires us to think about what the business need is, what problem are we trying to solve, what would be the ROI, what impact would the solution make on business or operations. This is the understanding of the business part. And on the tech side, what data is available? What kind of APIs are available? What about data security? How to host it? How to scale it? Those concepts, the more we understand, it would make the journey of building these kinds of applications smoother. Now, the tool landscape is huge, right? Having basic understanding of how LLMs and SLMs work, that can be a starting point. Combined with cloud services, since more and more of these solutions, as Aneesh was talking about and Bikramjit is saying, these solutions and capabilities are becoming cloud native. Then there are tools like orchestration tools like LangChain, Llama Index. There are vector database concepts and so on. So that is the tech part of things. You have to understand how the data works, API works, how would you chain these things in a workflow, how different agents would play different roles and whatnot. The other thing that cannot be ignored is the impact of Gen AI across SDLC and the roles involved, right? So GitHub Copilot is a leader on the dev productivity side. But what we are seeing is that there are other roles also that have started to leverage the power of these Gen AI-based tools, like product managers. They could use different tools to elaborate concepts to use cases, convert those use cases to a product backlog. Natural language to flowchart creations. There are solutions out there that can help you generate solution architecture diagrams using code. We are seeing also tools coming up which are helping convert natural language to prototypes. Now, why I'm talking about these, this allows product managers to think about, again, the bigger picture, the problem that they are trying to solve, to look at data to make decisions, so that this kind of work of creating backlog items, validating the concept through flowcharts, validating the concept through clickable prototypes, that can be done faster using the power of Gen AI based tools. From the dev point of view, GitHub Copilot, again, leading the race. So using that and tools like that will become more common a practice, is what we foresee. Right from understanding code to writing code, reducing technical debt, unit testing, migrating from one tech to another are the use cases that we are using it for. Here, the concepts of engineering are absolutely essential, since the produced output has to be validated. Maybe not from syntax point of view, but at least from logic point of view. Is there a better way to do it? Does it solve the problem I'm trying to solve? So your code review abilities are going to get tested over here. Problem solving will also play a very, very important role. Even the testing side is going through a revolution, right? So there are tools coming up where they can help us create test cases from requirements document. You can use code gen tools to generate automation scripts using those test cases. You can plan and prioritize those test cases, maintain them. Self-healing like tools are also becoming more and more common. Use tools to generate synthetic test data so that I am able to test with realistic scenarios without sacrificing on the data security aspects and whatnot, right? So we will need to become more familiar with these tools and the applications under test to ensure coverage is full. That is important. So its tools part is there, but you should know how the coverage should be handled, which is where your intelligence will kick in. So in a nutshell, it will be a combination of tech and business. It will be a combination of problem solving and thinking end to end is what we see would become more and more common.
Combination of tech and business and problem solving and thinking end to end. Aneesh, Bikram, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think very well said, Raunaq. I mean, for tech professionals today, they really have to think these three buckets: technical skill, domain knowledge, and soft skill. As the technical skill gets more and more automated with AI, they definitely have to increase the quotient of domain knowledge, which is not only industry knowledge. Increasingly, they have to have some regulatory knowledge like GDPR and some of those things, if that's applicable. And soft skill increase. Now, that is one area which is going to be extremely critical for developers now in the age of AI. And interestingly, they all start with C. It's like critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, and also continuous learning, because the obsolescence rate of their knowledge is going up significantly. If you think about engineering, right, it's a crazy situation right now. What you are studying in first year, by the time you'll come out of the engineering, it's already obsolete. And that means extreme adaptability is also needed. So I would say that technical, domain, soft, all three are equally important now, unlike in past where tech dominated the most.
Yeah, good. You brought up the soft skills part. So in some of the discussions we have here, the way I've made myself understand it, like how I should improve the quality of the prompts that I'm passing. It is like almost I have an intern and I need to give the instructions to an intern. And the better the quality of my instructions today, the better the quality of the outcome I can expect. So that's where your communication skills would come in, and the way you understand things, the way you translate that into a prompt to get a better quality response. I think it is very, very important. Not those 2-3 word prompts. They won't get us anywhere. So yeah.
No, absolutely. Those 4 C's. Now you added a fifth C, continuous learning. Yeah, great. So Bikram also say, I mean, what can organizations do to nurture this next generation of AI professionals?
Yeah. So organization definitely have a very important role. 3 things I will highlight. First, skilling, because at its core, AI is about empowerment and amplifying the human capabilities. That's what it is. And skilling is the key to supplying individuals and organizations with that knowledge and tools needed to stay ahead. For example, in Microsoft, we are deeply committed to support India's transformation into AI first nation, which is evident in our initiative like the Advantage India program or our Code Without Barrier program, which is set to expand in India, focusing on democratizing access to tech skill and closing the gender gap in the technology sector. The second one, after skilling, comes fostering a culture of experimentation. The organization should encourage their teams to explore new ideas, take calculated risk, work on the AI project that push the boundaries, really role modeling it from the top. The good news is that our 2024 work trend index shows that 92% of knowledge workers in India use AI at work compared to the global average of 75%. That's a great sign for companies in India. Your talents are hungry and ready to go. Let's give them some live project to work on. The third is providing hands-on experience with real-world AI challenges. Very critical. Companies should offer ideathons, hackathons, apprenticeship program that allow these young professionals to work on live AI projects. And we have been doing it with hundreds of customers in India. So those 3 things, like companies must invest in education, foster a culture of innovation, and provide real-world AI experience.
Just to add on, I think to especially Bikramjit's second point, right? Because that's somewhere that we get involved in a lot is you're at an enterprise scale, right? Like from a Microsoft scale, you'll have thousands of use cases being thought about simultaneously, right? And we face this a lot in verticals you work in, be it in travel, retail, and other ones, where there is so much sprawl in terms of ideas, which is great, and that's a great culture. But how do you create a framework around that, right? So that's where, we work a lot with some of our clients, like decide your architectural patterns for your AI use cases, decide your standardized databases, decide your standardized tooling, create maybe an internal software development kit that your developers can use, monitor AI usage in a centralized manner, pick maybe, some lower risk use cases first to get your feet wet before moving directly into an end customer facing use case. Have exit like a centralized board that's reviewing use cases as they go from a ready to build to a ready to production state. Have a board approve security guidelines for those use cases. So, obviously it doesn't apply to maybe a startup that's moving very quickly, but becomes really important. And that's where we get involved, consult with our enterprise clients on how they can put together that framework so that they're both enabling and fostering innovation, but it's not a wild west where 2 years down the line you have kind of spaghetti code all over the org that's being unregulated. So we help them create those governance standards and standardization and frameworks. But yeah, I totally agree with the points Bikramjit has mentioned.
Yeah.
This next question. Oh, sorry, Sujit, go on.
No, I was just pointing when Bikram mentioned that Indians are ahead of global average in terms of, you said adoption of AI tools and all that, right?
Using AI at work.
AI at work. Yeah. Your sister company CEO, LinkedIn CEO told us the other day that Indians learning by Indians is almost 50% more than the global average and all that.
Yes.
So Indians seem to be already quite charged up about all of this.
I wonder if a factor is because we also speak English, and all of these software seems to be better in English right now. I wonder if that's a factor.
Maybe a lot of youngsters as well. I don't know.
Yeah, youngsters. This next question.
Also. Sorry, it's like
Raunaq?
It's the mindset thing also. Sorry for using this word, but jugadu mindset, right?
I would say
yes.
With enthusiasm, even WhatsApp, I don't know, WhatsApp results also showed the same thing. WhatsApp India had the biggest AI usage. So that we have that element of wanting to experiment, so which is good.
Yeah.
Sorry, Akhil, you were.
Yeah. So this next question, maybe Aneesh, you can take it first, and then even Vikram can help us understand this. So what about the ethical considerations in AI? How can it be balanced with all this rapid technological advancements we're seeing today?
Yeah, so this is definitely like a wide and somewhat thorny topic, but I'll try to break it down and then feel free to hop in the rest of the folks. I think the way that we've been looking at it is there are kind of 3 stakeholders that have to think about ethics in the way that it applies to them, right? So one would be some model builders, people who are building LLMs from the ground up and launching them to end customers, right? So an OpenAI, Microsoft, or Google. And there it becomes very important to have strong standards in terms of using the right data to train the models, right? So things like paying attention to copyright laws in that particular region. And that's why you'll see a lot of providers inking deals with content owners to use their data to effectively train models, building in guardrails and safety in the models itself, doing red tagging and testing through manual teams in the process of training and building that model, investing in renewable, right? Because obviously the compute demands are very high for training LLMs on the ground up. Then comes, parties like us who are also building our own models and fine tuning, but not to the scale of a grounds up GPT model, and are serving as developers who use the models, build new applications. In our projects, when we look at ethics, first it's really important to, figure out how you can screen out in a chat-based application, for example, screen out responses that might be biased, might be harmful, might be insensitive to an end user. So we use railing frameworks like NVIDIA has one called Nemo, for example. There are other ones out there to guard and rail our responses that we're launching in our products, right? So that becomes an important element of ethics, being open and honest to users that they are interacting with an AI model, right? So this also came up in the recent EU regulation that you should be communicative with end users so that they can take the decisions on if they want to engage with the generative AI model and use it for their own gain. So in the development process, QA and user acceptance testing also becomes extremely important, especially if some of those use cases that Raunaq spoke about that involve taking an action, right? So if you get a bad chat response, worst case, you'll shut your laptop, you'll go for a walk. But if you're performing a trigger or hitting an API or pulling data from somewhere, and you're going to use that as the basis of a decision, doing thorough UAT, both automated testing through AI as well, through LLMs, and doing manual testing by writing test cases for your AI applications becomes extremely important before you launch those things into production. And finally, ethics as it applies to an end user, right? Ultimately, AI is a tool, and if you're using it for malicious purposes, that is also onus is on the end customer. You can't hold only providers responsible for that. So validating your interactions with AI models, reading terms and conditions as to when your data might be trained, when it might not, and obviously not utilizing it for phishing, hacking, and other purposes that are harmful in intent. So there is that degree of individual ethics as well that's important to consider. So I'd say we're looking at it with those three lenses, and as a development org, we're very concerned about how we bring in that element in our projects that we're delivering before production, and how we bring those ideas out. So if anyone has anything to add, I'm sure you can add some thoughts.
Yeah, Bikram? Yeah.
Yes. So two things I'll add on top of what Aneesh already said. First, we cannot realize the value of AI without trust. Very clear. We have been consistent in our belief that when you create technologies that can change the world, you must also ensure that the technology is used responsibly. There is a crucial need to develop AI that's predictable. It engages in positive, unbiased, and non-discriminative interaction. And that's why we are committed to creating responsible AI by design. There are 6 principles that we have established for ourselves, which we follow: fairness, reliability, safety, privacy, security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. It's also why we recognize the importance of involving humans in the AI development process. We have specialized team at Microsoft focused on responsible AI, building trust into those AI product. And this approach ensures that the AI system align with human value, ethics, and societal needs. The second one is we recognize the importance of strong, healthy dialogue between the tech industry, government, business, academic, and civil society organizations to make sure that the governance keeps pace with the speed at which AI is developing. Through collaboration, appropriate regulations can be developed and enforced to prevent AI from developing agency that competes with human beings. So building on what we have learned from our responsible AI program within Microsoft, we released a blueprint for India last year that details out 5-point approach to help on advancing AI governance. So those are the 2 points I wanted to add.
Yeah, I mean, the point that Bikram was making about businesses and policymakers and all working together. Aneesh, you want to add to that? I mean, how do you ensure, I mean, isn't it important for them all to come together to ensure that AI adoption leads to inclusive growth while also safeguarding jobs, enhancing workforce skills?
I think that's the most important, because sometimes, it was even worse than inaction is ignorant action, right? So I think it's very important for those parties to come together. I think the EU regulations, like, unsurprisingly, European Union was probably the leaders in terms of pushing out regulations. And if you look at it, there are some interesting ideas there, right? So one of it is, don't apply the same framework of regulation for all systems and use cases. So they define use cases as some low risk, medium risk, and then malicious, right? So a low risk use case could be something like spam detection, or maybe creative writing that you're doing individually. A more high risk use case would be, I'm using a recruitment based AI agent to screen interviews out, right? So where there is value and there is efficiency, but you have to be extra careful about biasness. What factors am I basing those screening algorithms on? If I'm doing an actual in-person AI-led interview, so those types of things, similar with healthcare, right? Like anything that's entering the diagnostics page, anything that's helping me, read my lab reports more efficiently, use cases like that, which are picking up, but they are higher risk use cases, right? The benchmark for accuracy safety, reliability is different compared to a use case that's about a creative writing or using it in different settings. So understanding that itself, I think, is really important, because otherwise you enter the threat of over-regulating certain usage and under-regulating certain usage. After you understand that, then it's about working with experts from the fields to figure out what regulation makes sense. Without, like I said, I mean, there is a risk of over-regulation sometimes, right? And I think we could sometimes skirt around the topic, but for example, there's a big talking about job safety, right? Is restricting the usage of tooling in schools or in a BPO center, is that the direction that we want to go to be job conservative? Probably not, right? Because the wave is here, usage is happening. Whether you like it or not, your kid in school is going back and using Gen AI, right? There's nothing you can do in a school framework that disallows that. So then you focus more on rethinking how you're educating folks, rethinking how you test on conceptual knowledge rather than things that they can just get generated from, because they're going to have access to these tools in the workforce, right? So if you restrict it now, then what are you setting them up for? So I think just blindly making regulation like that also is not has its own risks which need to be measured. But the collaboration between policymakers and business folks is extremely important, and I think even we're on the right track in India as well in terms of the tone that the government is taking, and maintaining that balance of under versus over regulation.
Okay.
And the point of collaboration here, we have to keep in mind, why are we collaborating? First of all, the point of the collaboration is to build a comprehensive AI strategy to drive economic growth, because if economic growth happens, job creation will happen. So while we build the strategy to drive economic growth, also then making sure there is inclusive policy framework so that it goes to the every strata of the society. Ethical use, AI use policy, data governance, privacy, security, reskilling, upskilling strategy for the country across student, across professionals, government, and citizens, and finally a responsible adoption of AI. And I think so far we are moving in the right direction, and the collaboration is happening. It's evolving field, very rapidly moving, so the dialogues need to continue.
Raunaq was trying to say something on Gen AI in schools.
No, so when Aneesh was talking about Gen AI in schools, interestingly, I mean, it reminded me of one of the use cases where we are working with an edtech company, helping them use Gen AI to help them co-author content that can be used, not at school level as much, but in general in other fields also, like fire safety and things like that. So companies are embracing this. But
I think
yes,
just one point to add there, like one is the actual content creation, but then it comes back to what you're doing with that content, right?
yeah.
So if you plan to spread it in WhatsApp groups with certain misleading captions, like again, you can't really hold a model so I think that regardless of AI, misinformation has to be treated very seriously, right from the top down, especially during we're seeing kind of concerns during election seasons and things like that,
Yes.
right? Malicious content being sent out. Is that an AI specific problem? I don't think so. There's more than enough of that content going around that's human generated. So that requires its own framework. And I think that's just one thing that people sometimes mix, right? Like what is an AI first problem versus what is a people first mindset and actionable problem. So I think that's also really important to take into account as policymakers.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're almost out of time. Yeah, sorry, Akhil.
No, in the beginning, Bikramjit, you had mentioned that for the jobs question, the way you answered it sounded like you shouldn't be scared of losing your job, right? Instead, you should be a lot more excited about the future and all the opportunities that are coming.
Yes.
Which I thought was very interesting. Please.
Yes, we should be prioritizing our productivity improvement, because if we are individually productive, we end up producing more products and services, which helps us to drive growth, which helps us to drive more job creation.
It's almost like an economics lesson, right?
Yeah, technology is what brings productivity, raises productivity, and that's what is critical for our per capita incomes to grow. Yeah, just a minute left. The three of you, we typically have a lot of young professionals listening in and reading our pieces and all that. In summary, very insightful discussion. Overall, in summary, your message to these young professionals, what should they be thinking about today? How should they be responding to these technologies in 15, 20 seconds each? Bikram?
I'll start. So few things they need to definitely be prepared for what's coming. So keep learning, at least the technical skills, get certified for that. For domain knowledge, stay updated and keep taking up apprenticeship or stretch assignments wherever you can to build on those knowledges. And build a portfolio of skills, not just one skill, because multidisciplinary skills are going to be very important. And do not take your eyes off from building your soft skills.
Keep learning. Soft skills are also important, and multidisciplinary skills. Raunaq?
Yeah, I think we have to embrace this revolution, and we can't just hope that it will take away jobs and not do anything about it, or we have to take it on, right? And we have to think holistically. So get your hands dirty, experiment with the technology, and think holistically, right from business till tech till how to test it and be ethical around it. So yeah.
Embrace this revolution. Aneesh?
Just look up. I think if I had to say, right? So look up from what you're currently doing and be proactive and bring those ideas to your org. I think it really sets you up for better performance in whatever org structure you're in.
Look up and be proactive. Absolutely. So thanks a lot, Bikram, Aneesh, Raunaq. Really nice having you on this platform. Very insightful discussion. This is absolutely what we need today for our young workforce to move ahead. Lots of opportunities there, but they need to reskill, understand what's required in today's age. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you all again some other time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.